Hey, what's up? So, yesterday, my friend Rachel and I went to Burger King for lunch. And so we're standing at the counter and we're placing our order. And I noticed that they had all of these Burger King crowns stacked on the counter. So I took one and I put it on and I continued to wear it while I was eating my food yesterday. And I thought, I'm going to wear the crown today for this video. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about perspective. I, Shawnito, want to give you just a little perspective. Just a little. So stick around, okay? Okay. Hi. Okay, so we're going to talk about perspective. But first, I thought it would be fun if we looked up the word perspective in the dictionary to get the correct definition of the word perspective. Now, there are many definitions of the word perspective, but this is the one that I'm interested in. It says, one's mental view of facts, ideas, and their interrelationships. Okay, and that is the kind of perspective I want to talk about today, okay? So let's say that I was raised by a couple of really screwy parents, okay? Bear with me. Let's say from the time I was born, my parents told me that this object was called a frog. Okay? They just thought it would be fun. Maybe they were trying a social experiment or a science experiment. Who knows? I told you, my parents were screwy. This is all hypothetical. Okay? So, they taught me that this object was called a frog. Okay? So, cut to years later. Here I am, I'm married to Jacqueline Smith. Yes, one of the Charlie's Angels. Why Jacqueline Smith? Well, because I was kind of in love with her when I was 12, and I was sure that she and I were going to get married. So in this little fantasy scenario, her and I are married, okay? So here we are, me and Jacqueline. We're in the kitchen and we're cooking dinner together, okay? And let's say I say to Jacqueline, my lovely wife, I say, Jacqueline, honey, could you pass me the frog, please? And Jacqueline looks at me, the what? Could you hand me the frog? She's like, what the hell are you talking about? And so then I point and I grab it and I say, this is called a frog. And then she looks at me and she says, no, Sean, that's not a frog. This is a spatula. And I say to her, no, it's a frog. And let's say, for shits and giggles, that this item was sitting on the windowsill of the kitchen. And Jacqueline goes over and grabs this off of the windowsill and then says to me, oh yeah, this is a frog? Well, then what the hell do you call this? And I say, well, this little green guy, it's called a spatula. And then she looks at me like, no, honey, no, this is not called a spatula. This is called a frog. And this is called a spatula. So, which one of us is right? If I was raised to believe that this object was called a frog my entire life, I went through my whole life thinking this was called a frog. And Jacqueline was raised her whole life that this was called a frog. Which one of us is right? Here's the thing, you guys. We all know that this item is called a spatula. You use it when you're in the kitchen and you want to, like wipe out the contents of a mixing bowl or something, right? That's what this is. It's a spatula. But can you remember the very first time you said the word spatula? Can you remember that? I can't. I cannot remember the first time the word spatula came out of my mouth. I cannot remember the time that I associated this object with the word spatula. My point is, everything in life is perspective, unique to you. If you want to call this a spatula and you want to call this a frog, who's to say what's right and what's wrong? Here's another idea. This cute little froggy. What color is he? Green? You think he's green? Yeah? How do you know? How do you know that this is green? Because let me tell you something. If you ask somebody who's colorblind what color this is, they might not look at it as green. They might look at it as like an ashen gray color. If dogs could talk, if animals could talk, and they saw this green frog, green to us, they might identify this color as gray. Who's right? Is the dog right for thinking that this is gray? Are we right for thinking this is green? The ultimate point of this video, boys and girls, and not to get all preachy and everything, you have to decide for yourself what something is and what something isn't. Not because you read it or were even taught it, or you saw it on the news, or you saw it posted on Facebook, okay? If you want to go through your whole life calling this a frog and go through your whole life calling this a spatula, go right ahead. It's not hurting anybody. Of course, it might start an argument, but then again, who's right? That's it. That's my video. Do you like my little Burger King crown? Okay. One more thing. Really, honestly, who decided that this was called a spatula? Who decided that this is called a frog? Who decided that these are called glasses? If we were to go back in history and find the origins of every single object, if you're sitting in a room right now and you look around your room, you can name everything that's in your room. Rocking chair, blinds, air conditioning unit, carpet, chair, lamp, plant. According to who? I don't know. Anyway, it's just one of those things that I think about when I'm laying in bed and I can't sleep. The origins of where all this stuff came from. The names of them. So, all right, well, I'm going to take my frog and my spatula and I'm going to go for a hike. So thanks for watching. See you guys. Have a good day. Psych. No, I'm not going for a hike yet. So back to my parents. Let's say that my parents told me my whole life that this is called a frog, and I go through my entire life calling this item a frog. Now, in day-to-day life, the word frog really doesn't come out of our mouth a lot. Frog is not a word that we say every day. I mean, can you remember the last time you said the word frog? So let's say from the time I'm born until I'm married to Jacqueline, that I go through life thinking that this genuinely is called a frog, because that's what I was taught. And I never had to identify this as a frog until that night when I'm in the kitchen with Jacqueline. And then she said to me that this was not called a frog, that this was called a spatula. Who's right? I mean, wars have been fought about this kind of thing. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, I could sit here and go on and on and on about it. Okay, I really am leaving now. Okay, bye.